with you guys? Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Recording in progress. All right. So we're gonna talk sports photography. Um, hopefully my voice is gonna last because I just finished doing a talk at Silver Springs Camera Club here on the same subject. So that was a good thing. Let me go to share my screen. Okay. Oh, had it share here. All right. Now you're seeing a nice looking stadium.
There we go.
And okay, very good. Okay, so gonna talk sports photography. What I how I like to run the meeting is if you have a question, just feel free to shout it out and ask me the question. I'd rather you get what you need as opposed to wait till the end and ask me a question. So if I say something and it brings a thought that you'd like me to address, then feel free. Normally, when I'm in person, that's how I like to do things. And I prefer that you get out of our time tonight what you need to get out of it, as opposed to me doing my spiel here. This is a photo of the bird's nest. This was shot at the Beijing Olympic Games. I'm in Beijing for 30 days. On the very next to last night of me being there, I have all my gear packed. I'm rolling out of the stadium, and I'm looking at this shot, and I'm like, oh man, that is so cool. Where were you the other 29 days or 30 days when I had my cameras out? And I'm walking past it. I'm walking past it. When I got to about the middle of it, I said, I got to take a photo. So I reached into my bag. You'll see a card that how I travel. I reached in and pulled out the 24 to 70, a Nikon D4, and I fired off 10 frames. And let me just check something I meant to do before for my last talk. For some reason, that camera's not firing. So anyway, I grabbed the camera, held it up. I did a quarter of a second exposure, and none of my cameras are firing. What the heck? Okay, I don't know what's going on, but either one. So I may be something with the cards. Anyway, and so I fired off 10 frames, put the camera back in with the 24 to 70 D4. And when I came home and showed this to a few people, it just opened up a bunch of doors for me, especially in the speaking realm. And it was almost a shot that I didn't take. And what I try to do with everything in my life, when I hear that voice inside of me says, do this or do that, the last thing I want to say is, I wish I had done it, or I knew I should have done it. I tried to do it, and I almost walked away from this photograph, and I can't again tell you how many doors open because I just took the time to take the shot. Real quick, I'm starting up my tour company again. We took off because of the pandemic and everything. First trip of the year is going to be to Tanzania in January, then Cuba in February. And for all of the trips, I'm only taking 8 people because I just want to keep it nice and tight, and so that I can pretty much give attention to that amount of people, and everybody has the freedom to do what they want to do. So if you're interested, I could send you the itinerary is on my website for Tanzania, and the itinerary is on my website for Cuba. I'm still working to get the final for the other ones. I just haven't posted them on my website yet. Okay, so for me, um, my first experience with photography, I went on my honeymoon to Bermuda, and someone gave me an Instamatic camera, and I went and took photos of Bermuda and all of the trappings and whatnot. And every time I took a shot, I shook the camera. So the first mistake I learned when it comes to photography is that camera shake will not make a great photo. So when I purchased my first camera, which was a Canon AE1, I would watch television, and while watching TV, I would just practice firing the shutter, practice firing the shutter, and then so I learned how to get away from this to this, And to this day, I very rarely um, um, will do a photo on a tripod. I'm just not that big of a fan of tripods, so I kind of stay away. And what I'm trying to say is a lot of times when you make a mistake, it it could lead. I mean, unless it's on a job and it's an important assignment, mistakes are okay because as long as you learn from these mistakes, most of the time, once you make the mistake, you won't go back and do it again. And like I said, my first mistake was camera shake. And to this day, I'm not afraid to take a camera and do a quarter of a second exposure. Now, when I do the quarter of a second exposure, I'm not going to go click, click, click. I'm going to go, I may do that 20 to 40 frames a second that the Sony would do in quiet mode. And you better believe maybe the first frame, the second frame, the third frame may have some camera shake because of hitting the release, but probably the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, the camera is going to be settled down. And now you got a sharp image that you can work with. All right. So basically, again, that was my first mistake. Now, I was working at General Motors on the assembly line, and I started teaching myself photography. One day, in Linden, New Jersey, Exxon had a fire. I went down and photographed the fire. I called my local newspaper up, and I was excited, and I made it sound like I had pictures that their guys couldn't have possibly had. So they invited me to come in to show the photos that I took at this fire. And long story short, they liked what I did, and they invited me to become a freelance photographer for them. They said, "How would you like to freelance for us?" I said, "I would love to." So I would work at General Motors 6:30 to 3, and then on weekends and evenings I would work for the News Tribune. One day at the News Tribune photo desk, the photo editor wanted to assign the staff photographer a giant football game. And he went and gave the game. The staff photographer said he didn't want to do it. He said, let Al Press do it. Al Press meaning AP. And so I said, I'll go shoot the game. And photo editor said, okay, Wyatt, here's the credential. I went and shot. My very first game was a giant football game, NFL Giants. I have photos of the fumble, the interception, the court, every major action photo of that game. I had a photo of it, and I just smoked the game. And when I came back, they were happy with what I did. They started giving me the credentials to shoot the Jets, Giants, in Philadelphia. Now, when I would get to a game on behalf of the News Tribune, the first roll of film would be black and white, and I would shoot that for the News Tribune. Then the next roll of film would be a roll of color film. You guys do know what film is, right? Okay. I think I saw one person barely shit. Okay, there you go. Thank you. So anyway, so I would put a roll of Kodachrome in, black and white, Kodachrome, black and white. I started taking the Kodachrome, the color shots, and I started submitting them to Sporting News, Inside Sport, USA Today, Newsweek, ABC, CBS, et cetera, et cetera. And the next thing you know, NFL Properties hired me as a freelance photographer. And I used to pick 3 games every week. And I would pick those 3 games because XYZ was the leading quarterback, or XYZ had the most tackles or interceptions or whatever, and that was a key player. And then I would pick 3 games every week, and the top priority was, can you shoot Kodachrome there? I never picked an indoor stadium because at that time you couldn't shoot 64 Kodachrome or 200 Kodachrome, and mostly all the publications at that time would want you to shoot slide film. Okay, and so then on Friday night we would check the weather, and whoever had no rain, nice sunny day, that's where we would fly. Now, back in those days, there was an airlines called People's Express. Does anybody know or heard of People's Express Airlines before? Okay.
Yeah, we've heard of it.
Okay. Well, you know how they used to work. You'd be on the plane and paying for your flight while you're actually flying. So those were the good old days. So for 10 years, I worked at General Motors and I did photography. And after 10 years, I decided to quit General Motors and go into photography full time. And here we are today. My oldest client is Six Flags marketing and PR department. On April 15th was my 33rd year doing photography for them. And one of the highlights of the 33 years, as I do not like wedding photography, all right, because number one, during the summer, I follow drum and bugle corps during the summer. And then I also like to ride roller coasters during the summer. I had three boys, so we visit amusement parks during the summer. So the last thing I wanted to do was to put on a shirt and tie in July and August and go shoot somebody's wedding. So, but three out of the four PR people that I worked with for the 33 years at Six Flags, they hired me also to do their wedding photography. So anyway, today I'm a corporate and editorial photography, and just really enjoying every bit of it, and haven't worked a day in my life. Now, here's the equipment that I use for the Beijing Olympics. Long story short, I was shooting Canon for the Athens games, and I went out and bought, I think it was, oh God, I can't remember the body I was using, but it was a brand new Canon something 3. I forget what it was now. I'm sorry. And it wasn't focusing properly. So long story short, I called up Nikon, sent them an email and asked if they would sponsor me for the Beijing games. And long story short, they said yes. And 1 week before I was to leave for Beijing, on the Saturday, the following week would be the opening ceremony. UPS truck, which normally pulls up to the curb, this particular day, they backed the truck into my driveway and pulled out three boxes with $52,000 worth of camera gear. And this is the equipment that I use at 400 2.8, 300 2.8, 200 to 400 f4, 70 to 200, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how the equipment I use for the Beijing games. Now, that's how I carried all of that stuff to the Beijing games. And all of those baggage was handled by one. I did not have an assistant. Just your humble servant here managed all of that. At that particular time, Continental, which is now United, um, I did work for their marketing and PR department, and I asked if they could get me cleared to get the opportunity to bring my equipment, and they set it up where I went through all the security and got on board with all of my major equipment on board. You never, ever, ever want to check camera equipment when you're flying. So for sports photography, the best digital camera you can afford to buy. One of the priorities is you wanted to be able to shoot at high ISOs, because a lot of the times if your games are at night, you're going to have to shoot available light, and you may be at 3200 or ISO higher than 3200, and you want it to be as clean as possible. And so again, you want to the you know, right now I'm using 289s and I have an A7 III. I did a assignment for Hershey Park, and it was an indoor ride. I needed to stop the action, but they wouldn't allow me to shoot flash, because if I shot flash, it was going to mess up all the electronic stuff that they have working the ride. So I actually had to bump the ISO up to 4500, and the stuff looks beautiful. So that's the advantages of paying the $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for these bodies, because they are going to look good at high ISOs. The next thing for doing sports photography is the fastest lenses you can afford to buy. Now, you know, this is the 70 to 200 2.8. Back when I was Canon, I had a 400 2.8 and a 300 2.8 that I had to get my father to co-sign for me to purchase those two lenses. And at that time, my father was a mechanic, so he understood. He said, well, if you want to play with the big boys, you're going to have the big boys' toys. And he signed the paper for me. Now, today, to spend 12 grand on a lens, 8 grand on the lens, and try to make that money back is really, really, really difficult. All right. So it's like, you know, you're better off renting it, you know. So, or you can look at purchasing, if you have a body that can handle the high ISOs, now that'll allow you not to have a 2.8 lens. And now maybe you can go to an f4 lens, or maybe a 5.6-6.3. Now this particular lens is a 200 to 600. I've had it for about 3 months, but I actually shot it for the first time Easter Sunday, I went down to Six Flags and shot the safari with this thing. And it's a pretty good lens. And because I can bump the ISO, so I may shoot 2000 ISO, where normally we used to be 400 to 800. And so, there's no noise, and you can't tell the difference. Now, when I was Canon shooter, I would never think of using a Tamron or a Sigma lens on my Canon. It always had to be the white L glass lens with that little red ring around it. And that white glass and that little ring around it said L glass probably made you pay almost $1,000 more for that particular privilege to have that lens. So don't be afraid to check out Sigma and Tamron. Now, I've barely used Tamron, but I've used a lot of Sigma lenses, and give them a good look, because you can save yourself some money, and the image quality is going to be just as good. I will show you some photos in a couple of minutes. Now, for me, when I first started, my first mistake in photography was camera shake. So I learned how to hold the camera steady. And so now when I first started with Canon, and I was 30 years, and I was shooting sports with the 400-2.8, I actually would hand hold it to 400-2.8. I didn't want to use a monopod, because if I'm doing NFL football and I'm on the quarterback, it was easier for me to move with my body like this as opposed to move with that tripod, the monopod. So, and then I would just shoot maybe with a 2000 or faster shutter speed to help compensate. Let me just clear my throat for a second here. But by doing that, holding the 400-2.8, I ran into a problem where I started having pain in my arm, right in this section. And so I went to a doctor, and I explained to him the pain I was having. So he says, you examine me and all that kind of stuff. And he says, Ron, you have tennis elbow. And I said, that's impossible, because I've never played around a tennis in my life. How could I have tennis elbow? And then he asked me, well, what do you do? And I says, well, I'm a freelance photographer. And so he says, okay, I'll tell you what you're probably doing. Now, I used to have the regular camera strap, and maybe I'll have that strap around my neck. And now when I'm walking around with a 70-200, I don't just let that thing flop around when I'm walking around. I actually hold the lens. So when I'm walking, I'm holding the lens. And after doing that for so many times and so many years, it started wearing away. Holding this weight and putting it on started damaging some nerves in my arm. And so once I learned about that, I went to get a new strap called the Black Rapid Dual Strap. And there are other companies that have dual straps. But what I do with that strap is I clip this to the ring underneath, and now this camera hangs to my side. And now when I'm doing travel photography or street photography, I usually have the 70-200 on the right side, and I have the 24-70 on the left side. I always shoot with two bodies, always. I want to be able to, my name is Ron Wyatt, the photographer, but there's a guy named Wyatt Earp, the cowboy, and I pretend I'm a cowboy when I'm out doing photography. If I see something far away and I need to shoot it, I pick this camera up really quick. I can put this down. Okay, now I'm close and I need a wide shot. I pick this camera up with the 24-70, and I got my coverage. Either way, I don't have to switch lenses. And yes, maybe if you're in Tanzania or say China with me, and you're walking all day, you're shooting early in the morning all the way to night, you might be sore when you come back home and all that kind of stuff. But when you start looking at your photos, you're going to be very happy that you got these photos, and you'll forget all about the aches and pains and blah, 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 blah. Okay, memory cards. Two things that I've learned about memory cards from Sony, from Lexar and SanDisk. The two things that will make a card go bad is filling the card all the way to the end and deleting photos from your camera off the card. So if you take a photograph and you don't like that photo, and you say, oh, I don't like that, and then you hit the trash button and you keep hitting the trash button, deleting photos from the camera, that's one of the things I've been told by Lexar and SanDisk that could possibly damage your card. Has anybody out there ever had a card go bad? Okay, I guess not. Okay, well, good. So now that you know. Now, like I said before, I use two bodies, 70 to 200 on the right, 24 to 70 on the left. Now, what I do with my cards is I have camera one, camera two. I have in my card, I number camera one, camera two on my cards. I never take camera two card and put it in camera one card because I was told by the Lexar people that's another thing. Mixing your cameras in different, mixing your cards in different cameras also has a negative effect to it. So I marked all of my cards, and one always gets camera one cards, and two always gets camera two cards, and I'll never swap them out. Now, if you could take that for what it's worth. I like I said, knock on wood, I never had a card go bad, and I try to keep up with those two recommendations that I received. So
I
so
have a
here's
question for you about cards, Ron. Can I
yes,
interrupt you a minute?
yes.
So when you take your photos off of your card, do you do it with your camera or do you take the card out and transfer your photos that way?
Okay, so I take the cards out and I put I okay, so let's just say if we're traveling. If you go with me to Tanzania in January, I'm gonna ask that you bring your laptop with you, and then I'm gonna ask you to bring at least two hard drives. And then what I do every night, once we finish shooting during the morning and the afternoon and the evening, even if it's 2 in the morning, I'm gonna ask you to to look at your photos that day, and then before you go to bed and while you're charging your batteries for tomorrow's shoot, I'm going to ask you to load the images of today on hard drive one and load the images today on hard drive two. So here's a little portable hard drive. This is a
Right.
Lacey, but and then once you load on both of those, you have two copies of it now. Now I'll stick that card in, and I know I have two copies. Now I was in Tanzania in September, and what I did for Tanzania is I had them in three places. Normally, I take that card for camera one and stick it back in camera one, and then I reformat it again because I do have two copies already, so I can format the card and start all over with a fresh card. But for some reason, when I went to Tanzania in September, I took I just kept loading everything on the card. I don't even know why I did that, but so now I had three copies of today's shoot. And so the way I delete the information is sticking in the card, I mean in the camera, and format the card. And usually I format twice. Like this camera has two slots. The bottom slot I use for my raw files, the top slot I use for my JPEG files, and I'll hit format and format it one, then format two, then format one again, then format two, and make sure I did it twice, and then I'm off to the races again.
So do you take photos? Thank you very much. Do you take photos both in JPEG and RAW?
Yes, I take them in RAW and JPEGs. I never look at the JPEGs. I just take it as a backup. In case something did happen to my RAW file card, at least I got the JPEGs.
Okay.
I mean, now I did a corporate shoot on Tuesday, and so I did portraits. I didn't tether, so I shot RAW and JPEG. So after I finished each person, maybe I shot say 5 to 10 to 15 frames of that person. Then I took the JPEG card out, I loaded it on my computer and looked at it real quick. Then I stuck it back in. But I pretty much, I shoot RAW and JPEG, but I'm always using the RAW files. I never use the JPEGs, and that's just a backup. Now I should know the answer to this, but I don't, to be honest with you. But in my mind, I feel like if I tried to do RAW in slot one and RAW in slot two, I feel like that would slow my camera down trying to read two RAW files in two spots. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I basically you know, I'm using the high quality JPEG, but I'm and I but I still had the raw file just in case something happens. I still got a decent file in the JPEGs. But I mean, I've fortunately, knock on wood, I've never had to go to the JPEG because something happened to my cards. So this is a shot with the Sig. Now, my favorite lens out of 30 years with Canon and 10 years with Nikon, and now I'm with Sony. My favorite lens ever is the Nikon 200 to 400 f4. When I was at the Olympics, I shot opening ceremony with the 400 2.8, the 300 2.8, and the 200 to 400 f4. And after opening ceremony, I put the 400 2.8 in the locker, and I put the 300 2.8 in the locker. Didn't touch them until the last night. I took it out of the locker. The rest of the Olympics, 90% of everything 99%, 98% of everything I shot at the Beijing Games was shot with the 200 to 400 f4. So this, my second favorite lens is the Sigma 120 to 300 2.8. Excuse me. So here's some images. The reason why I'm showing you this is if you can't afford to buy the Nikon top of the line L glass lenses, I'm sorry, you know, pro lenses, and if you can't afford to buy the Canon, don't be afraid to check out Sigma. Now, I haven't really used Tamron. I've had a couple, but I can't swear by Tamron, but I could swear by Sigma. And you know, you're going to save yourself some bucks, and maybe that $500 or more that you save, it could get you some other piece of equipment that you need, and you're not going to notice a difference in quality. So this is shot with the Sigma 120 to 300 ISO 800. All right, why is it not moving? Okay, so here's the 120 to 300 again. This was indoors with the 120 to 300 2.8. Boxing 24 to 70. Baseball. So again, you're looking at this quality, you know, I mean, I'm sure if you get the microscope out and look at the files, you may see a difference between the Canon or the Nikon or the Sony, but you know, this is fine. Okay, so you want to be a sports photographer. For me, this is a photo that of my son who played baseball, and I'm hoping that a lot of you guys, you know, if you want to do it professionally, that's one thing, but if you want to do it just because you have kids that play sports and you love photography and now you want to tie in your sports, your photography with sports, you know, it's a really cool thing to do. This is my son. And so, you know, I slowed down a little bit with my travel and stuff, and I only missed one of his baseball games, you know, where my older kids, I wasn't home for nothing. When I first started, I was shooting basketball, like the time of the year when there's baseball, football, and basketball and college, never home. I was eating out at stadiums every night, you know, that's not being home. But towards my older age, I got to shoot my kid. And this particular photo was when Nikon sent me the gear to use for the Beijing Olympics. I got the equipment on Saturday morning. UPS pulled in, and then my son had a game Saturday night. Now, when I made the pitch to Nikon, it was like maybe 2 weeks before it was time to leave. And then 1 week before I'm ready to go, they said, okay, we'd like to send you the equipment. And I actually said, no, thank you, because it meant that I was gonna have to learn a whole new system 1 week before going to the Olympics. Does that make sense? It's like, you know, one focuses this one zooms this way, one has a monopod that fits this way, one has a mono. It was just different things. And to me, the only other more important assignment I think I'm ever going to get is when I get to heaven and I get to do the day in life of Jesus Christ photo shoot. You know, I think that's it. So it was really scary to go out and go to the Olympics with a brand new camera system. But that Saturday afternoon, I set up the cameras. to do what I wanted to do. I'm going to explain to you how I set it up in a second. And I went and shot my son's baseball game that afternoon. And the photos that I got using the Nikon said, okay, we're going to take a chance and go shoot the Beijing games with the Nikon gear. But for you guys, if you want to start, you may want to look into starting with Little League or Pop Warner football or high school football, and speak to the athletic directors of these programs or the PR person or even the coach if it's Little League, and just tell them that you're interested in becoming a sports photographer and you need to start building up your portfolio. Would it be okay to come out and photograph the games and then tell him, hey, you know, maybe you'll have to give him some shots that he could use on his Facebook page or whatever. But you know, you're gonna have to somehow build up a portfolio so that you can show. And then you start at Little League, then you go to high school, then you go to college, and then you work your way into doing professional sports. But you need to have that a selection of samples of your work so people can trust that you'll be able to handle the job. The left is Little League baseball photo, and the top right was I was working for a newspaper, the Star Ledger, and this is I asked for permission from the judge if I could get out in the middle of the field in harm's way, and with a long 400-2.8 lens. And that top shot was taken because it was the 400-2.8. It kind of threw the background out of focus. And of course, as soon as he let that thing go, I'm fired off my shot. And you better believe I'm going to try to make sure I'm not in the way. The bottom shot, or the hand relay, this is actually doing a race, and I just happened to again be at the right place at the right time. And this is with the 24-70. They're real close to me, and I'm following them, and bang, 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 and we got this shot. Now, this was shot for my friends, family that I know from church. That, you know, they're a little older, and they have a young baby, and they're just not baby, but a young son, and they're just enjoying the sun. And they asked me if I wouldn't mind coming out and take some photos, and I said sure, no problem. And so this is you know, young kids soccer, and what I enjoyed about this particular shoot is it was fun to see some kids actually enjoying the sports, and it wasn't about the money or what place you're in or anything. It was just the actual enjoying out playing soccer, and I was very happy with seeing his excitement and enjoy capturing the photos. Now, I don't recommend you just walk out onto a little league field or a soccer field and just start photographing people's kids. You know, they're going to frown on it. So get permission. And again, you may have to offer some photos for them to use on Facebook or maybe even set up a little album thing where you can eventually sell them some photos. So here in New Jersey, we have a Somerset Patriots minor league team, and I'm supposed to call them after the end of this month, and I'm going to try to do baseball workshops where we'll come and spend a day at a baseball game. And so I went and shot the game so that I could get a sample of the type of photos you should be looking for should you go out on this particular day in the life of a minor league baseball team. So this is shot from the dugout. I mean, from the photographer's cage out actually on the field. So here's, you know, refreshments, beer, ice cream, hot dogs. And so again, I want you to go there and tell a story. And I do the same thing when I'm doing my travel trips. If you go on my website and look at my work from China, I've been to China 8 times, and I was just fascinated with the scooters. They do everything on the scooters. And if you go to my website, you'll see I have a whole category on scooters. And so I don't shoot scooters in America. Only when I go to China, I shoot scooters. Now I'm going to Venice, and I'm looking forward. One of the shots on my bucket list is, you know, going down the waterway and the gondolas, and you know, so you know, if you have vacation coming up and you're planning to do some traveling, check out the photo opportunities where you're at and assign yourself a photo assignment, and you'll be surprised while you're trying to capture those assignments that tell the story about your photo assignment. you'll also be surprised how much your creative juices are flowing, and you'll start noticing other things to take photos of. So again, we're at a baseball workshop, and most of you guys would think, oh, we're going to just shoot action on the field, but no, there's plenty photo ops at a baseball game. And actually, you could go spend a day here and come back and produce a book on the day in life of game day. Okay, so here's still more signing autographs. There's a little bucket that they have their snacks in the dugout. Mascot. Now here I'm on the field, but I'm taking the railing to do some framing. Okay. Here's the third base coach in between innings is talking to a fan. Now that kid loved that moment, and to be able to offer them some photos it's a great photo opportunity and a Kodak moment. So here now we're into game action, and this is from the third base. Pretty sure this was shot with the 200 to 400 Nikon. So now this is on the first base side. So again, it's a photo workshop, and I'm planning to offer this to maybe 8 photographers for the day, and we'll go out and shoot a game. Now, somebody from your club could maybe work something out like this with your minor league baseball team, and then you can fly me out, and I would be happy to lead the talk. You know, when I was at McDonald's, my first job was McDonald's, and they said they taught me how to do suggestive selling, you know, so I'll show you more, talk more about that later. So again, here's first base from the first base side action. So I'm trying to work out the same deal with a horse track, day in the life of horse racing. And basically it's looking a little hard because it seems like the camera spooked the horses and everything. And there's a lot of money involved. So they're frowning on me being able to come in early and bring photographers, you know, after they do their morning run. And then I wanted to, like, I have samples of photos where they're actually bathing them, you know, and all the stuff behind the scenes, and they're afraid. So I have 2 more places that are interested in trying to work it out. So, but here's some sample shots you can get at the racetrack. At first, this lady said she didn't want her photo taken, and after some convincing and smiling, she changed her mind. And this is all backfield stuff at the racetrack. So the shoe board shows you all the different mounts. And then like I said, I got there early in the morning, so I got there before the crowd came. And so I did some interior shots. Now here's a gentleman. He's looking at the card, you know, how to place his bets. And from a distance, I saw him, and real quick, I saw the reflection in his glasses. So I grabbed the 70 to 200, and I banged off a couple of shots real quick. And then I went over to him closer, and I showed him what I had from the 70 to 200. And I said I would like to do a close-up shot, and he he gave me permission. And the second shot is with the 24 to 70. So here the, you know, how they bring the horses out so you can take a look at them. And this is some pretty good action, because most of the horses they're not easy to handle. They give you a run for the money and turns into good action. I kept seeing on the top right, I'm going to call him the referee or the official. I don't know what his official title is, and I kept seeing him pick the horse's mouth up and everything. I mean, his lip. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he says, oh, there's a number there. That's where they keep the identification. And so then I went in and did a whole bunch of shots, tight and wide and everything on that particular. And then this is jockey just finished his run. And down at the bottom, you know, I'm in the drum and bugle chorus and stuff. So you can hear that song. And so I probably did about 50 frames of just the bugler, tight shots, wide shots, up the nose, all kinds of angles on that. And again, it's to tell the story of a day in the life at the horse track. You could pick any subject matter and try to find a series of photos to tell that story. For this shot is one of my favorites, and it just looks like the 2 of them are communicating with each other. And again, it's being in the right place at the right time. People say, hey, how do you get these shots and everything? This is what I do. I am a disgruntled Christian. I don't like some of the stuff that some of the people who call themselves Christians are doing. So I'm not proud enough to say I'm a Christian. So I say I'm a disgruntled Christian because of the hypocrisy that's being represented in Christianity that I'm not happy with. Anyway, over with that. But for me, before every assignment, I have to have chewing gum. And before every assignment, no matter what I'm doing, and I mean every assignment, I say my prayers. I thank God for the talents that He's given me. I thank God for the opportunity to use these talents to make a living. And then I say, let me take photographs that will please you, make you happy to see, and therefore has no choice but to make my clients happy. And then I'm off to the races. Let me be in the right place at the right time, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when everybody says, well, what's your secret in getting? That's about the best way I could say. And it's about being at the right place in the right time. And it's about understanding your camera equipment, what it can do, what it can't do, and et cetera. We're going to talk about that in a second too. So here we're still at the racetrack. Now we're into racing. That's in the afternoon, but we've had a full day of capturing nice photos from the day. Now he's obviously finished his run, but that's how dirty they get. With any assignment, if you get a corporate assignment or a sponsored assignment, you always want to try to have the name or the name of the product in your photos if all possible. All right, so this was shot at Monmouth Park, and of course, I'm going to try to get the shot with the signage. Now, when I shot the Beijing games, after shooting the 2004 games, I looked at my 2004 and I says, well, what do you want to do next that's different? And my goal for 2008 was to have Beijing 2008 or Olympic rings or Beijing 2008 with the Olympic rings in every photo that I took at the games. Okay, so back to a little more technical stuff. You know, like in the last meeting, somebody asked me, okay, Ron, so what do you shoot in? Do you shoot manual mode, aperture mode, or shutter priority? I 99% of the time, my camera is in shutter priority mode. You know, I usually set my ISO to whatever I think I need. You know, I did say I was going to start shooting auto ISO just to swap back and forth, but you know, I'm over 60, and so I'm in my ways, so it's hard to change the ways. But so basically, most of us will get a brand new camera and we know how to put it in manual mode. We know how to put it in aperture mode. We know how to put it in shutter priority. We probably even know how to do the plus and minuses. So that would make us tend to not really read the camera manual. So all of the other nice little things that you paid in that 5,000 body or the $2,000 body, and it's got these little bells and whistles, unless you read the manual and learn about it, you're not going to know about it. So what I suggest everybody do when you get a new camera is take that manual into the bathroom. And every time you spend quality time in the bathroom, learn one new thing about your camera. Okay. Now today with the internet, you could even take your iPad or your iPod or your MacBook Pro into the bathroom, and you could Google back button focus, which is what I'm going to talk about in a couple of seconds. And while you're sitting there, you can actually watch a video on back button focus. And now once you come out of the bathroom, you've learned one new thing about your camera. And instead of just sitting there, you know, so anyway, I hope somebody's smiling and get what I'm trying to say here. I've been offered to return to other clubs for the second time, and I'll say, who's got their manual in the bathroom? And maybe one guy will go and put his hand up real quick and take it down, and the other people say, yeah, I thought that was so funny, but I know all my stuff. So what you want to understand your metering system, you want to understand your focusing system. The first thing I do with the new camera is I set up the camera so it will not fire without a card in it, okay? The second thing I do with the new camera is I set up the camera so that I focus with the back button, all right? Anybody out there doing back button focus 100% of the time? Okay, I see one guy waving. Everybody else isn't doing back button focus?
I think most of the people here are doing it. Yeah.
Oh, you are doing it. Okay, very good. Well, my photographers. But just in case, back button focus. I very rarely do I get a photo out of focus. As long as I'm pushing that button, I'm in continuous mode and I'm tracking my subject matter, my center dots on whatever I'm shooting. I'm very happy with the results. For those who aren't using back button focus, what the thing I like about it is to say if I'm photographing a person and then, well, say if I'm photographing me and then I want to include that photo is in the background of me. And so, and I'm here. So what I would do is I would zoom in on my face with this zoom lens and I would push the back button, focus on my eye, and then I would zoom back out. And now to get that picture that's hanging on my wall and keep me in, probably with the 24/7, I'm just gonna pan to the right. And now I'm here and then my picture is in. Now my center dot is no longer on my face, but as long as I take my finger off that center, off my back button focus, that center dot is not gonna automatically focus. If you're focusing from the shutter release, every time you push that shutter release, it's going to also focus the image wherever your center dot is. So again, I focus on me, I take my finger off, I recompose the photo that I want to take, and I can fire off 200 frames. As long as I don't move or the camera person or the person I'm photographed doesn't move, they're all going to be in focus. You can Google back button focus Sony A9 and you'll probably find a YouTube that'll help you explain. It's a two-step process on this. I have to first program the back button to focus, and then I have to deprogram focusing from the shutter release. Now, some bodies, if you program it, it automatically deprograms it from the shutter release. But you want to make sure that those two things are happening. Otherwise, if you don't deprogram it from the shutter release, as soon as you hit the shutter, it's going to automatically start focusing. Okay. Any questions out there? Okay, so remember before I was talking to you about taking the bathroom? Well, here's a shot of my bathroom. And as you can see, laptops there. There's a Sony 600 manual. And I even have XM radio in there too with a Bose speaker. So, you know, and there's the $ on the seat. So you may come out a little sore butt, but your mind is expanded because you learn one or two new things about your camera, and that's what we want to do. All right, we'll move on. Is somebody out there smiling and seeing the humor, but the importance of having time to read your manual. So here's some equipment with the Sony gear laid out. Corporate sports opportunities. So as a corporate photographer, there are opportunities for me to do sports. This particular event is for a hospital. This kid has autism, and this was a special day for him. And this was a spring football game for Rutgers, and they were gonna allow him to run the longest run play in Rutgers history. And so he was going to go from a certain yard line and run all the way back and cross the goal line. And that would be considered the longest run in history. It was a cool moment. You know, I've shot 2 Olympic games, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one of the highlight photography opportunities of my career that I enjoyed. Now, so he saw the cheerleaders and they gave him the pom-poms and he started having fun. So I went over, you know, we're waiting for a certain time in the game for this actual run to happen. And so I went over with 24/7 and started photographing, and it was fun to work with. And so at this particular time, when I got this assignment, I was trying to figure out how am I going to shoot this? I knew he was going to have to run from maybe the 2-yard line all the way to the other end of the field. And so I'm trying to figure out, how do I shoot this? Do I stand in the end zone and just try to track him with a long lens? Or do I get out there and run with them? And so at that time, I had both hips were bad, all right? Getting ready to have surgery in a couple of months from that. And I decided I better stay with them because if people are in front of them and I don't see them, then I don't get the shot. And so because of the excitement and everything, I forgot about my bad hips, and we're actually doing the run. So here's the run. I'm running backwards. So I got a 70 to 200 on one side, a 24 to 70 I'm actually shooting with. And you can see he's having a good time. He's making the run. So here we're still running backwards, and I'm running, and then all of a sudden he starts picking up speed, and now I'm running backwards, and then I got two cameras flopping and everything. And so eventually they passed me. I couldn't keep up with them, but I already had some shots. And so then when I finally caught up with them, they picked them up and they were just turning them around. And I just happened to be there at the right time. And here with the 24 to 70, I got this shot off. And again, I'm using back button focus, my center dot, and bam, bam, bam. And here was the last shot. Yeah, it was a fun time, and it's an assignment that I'll never forget. So here was another person. He was critically ill, and they asked me to come out and photograph him. And he had a passion for soccer, so we created some of the. But again, this is for a hospital, and it was a sports opportunity for me to use my sports photography to do a job, a corporate job. Now this is another corporate event. This was a fundraiser for Central State Hospital here in New Jersey. And the photo on the left, this is a lady that paid probably a couple of grand to play in the tournament, but it's a fundraiser. And I went in tighter on her when she was getting ready to putt. And then I zoomed out with the 70 to 200. And you know, you're shooting, and I got this frame right before the ball fell in. That, you know, I didn't take a piece of gum and stick it under the ball and lean it over to the side to make it look like it was going. This is actual action that was going on with the 70 to 200. On the top right, here's a FISA going to the next hole, and it shows them having fun. And so the next time my client wants to invite them to come back next year and pay another couple of grand to play golf. Oh, by the way, here's a nice photo of you guys that how much fun you had last year, and it helps them sign. So the PR people are happy when you turn up the photos like that for them to use for next year's fundraiser. And this is the president of Central State Hospital, and your PR people are happy if you come back and you show the boss look like he's having a good day and happy-go-lucky. And this is a shot where I did a foursome shot, and then they're ready to tee off, and I just happened to look at, and there's this reflection in, and so I took this frame, and coming out of the sand trap, that's with a 300-2.8. Okay, so this is a shot where this gentleman was sick. They made him better. Now he could go back to his passion of bowling. And whenever there's a cover opportunity for anytime I get an assignment, I always try to give them more than what they're asking for. They wanted a photo like the top right photo where you can see the guy, you can see his face real good, and he's getting ready to bowl, and it's a nice shot to say so-and-so is now better because Central State Hospital made him better. So this particular photo, but one of the first things I learned when I got hired at McDonald's is McDonald's taught you how to do suggestive selling. And so if you see that your customer orders a cheeseburger and a Coke, then they teach you to suggestive sell him a French fry to go with that cheeseburger and a Coke. So would you like a French fry to go with that cheeseburger and Coke? So what I do in photography, if I know there's an opportunity for a cover shot, okay, and all they really wanted was that top right photo with the guy getting ready to bowl and you can see his face and everything, I'll try to suggestive sell them, like the shot that's on the left, where it's nice background, it's a good action shot, and there's room at the top where they could put title in at the top of the magazine, and then there's room in front of him where they could put some subject matters there, and they could put type in the back. So always try to, if you know there's a cover, try to sell them a cover, and you'd be surprised how many times they'll see that shot and say, wow, that's better than what we got. Let's go with that photo instead. Any questions? Are we doing okay?
Yep, doing good.
All righty. So shot list. So now we're preparing to go out and do either photograph our kid, our grandkid, or an assignment to do sports photography. So obviously you want to know who you're supposed to be photographing. So if it's your grandson, you already know that. But if you get an assignment and it's for a newspaper or something, then you need to find the number of the key player and track him down to make sure he's playing and you get photo opportunities. And what I suggest you do, number one, is when it comes to sports photography, say if I'm shooting an NFL football game and the game starts at 1 o'clock, then I'm probably going to be at the stadium by 9 o'clock in the morning because I beat the traffic and all of the headaches so that I'm nice and relaxed when it's time to shoot the game. And then, you know, usually for professional games, they give you lunch, breakfast, or dinner, depending on what time the sporting event you're shooting starts. And then what I like to do is when the players go out and warm up, I believe as a sports photographer, you should be out there warming up also. You shouldn't be just yakety yak 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 and all that kind of stuff. Once the players warm up, you should be warming up. Practice following the football, practice focusing. Just do everything and get your eye focused on being in focus in this viewfinder. You know, instead of doing this, get your eye in there and just spend some time so that this eye gets used to being looking in there and seeing everything. And you'll be surprised how much your photography will improve. The other thing about doing safety shots is say you're shooting a little league baseball game, it's a championship game or it's a playoff game, and you need a picture of Ron Wyatt, who is leading the league in home runs. Okay, so Ron Wyatt gets in the batting cages and now I'm practicing batting and doing the swings. So go photograph Ron while he's doing his batting practice stuff. And then he's out throwing the baseball and doing different things. Take photos of him, because what happens if a downpour rain and they cancel the baseball game and you get back to your editor and say, well, the game was canceled. Then you say to him, no, but the game was canceled, but I shot him doing pregame warnings. Here's some of the stuff I had. Now your photo editor is happy with you because you at least have something that he can run with the story they were planning on running tomorrow. Does that make sense? Somebody wave at me. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Okay, all right. Hey guys, it's 10 o'clock here. I got up at 6 o'clock this morning to go to a funeral. So let's have some life out there. Anyway, so obviously for the shot list is going to be, there you go. Thank you. Also on your shot list is obviously you're going to do the action shots of the game. But then what I like to do is try to also photograph emotion shots. Okay. Say you're photographing your grandson or your kid playing baseball. He's at the plate. All of a sudden, ball comes in. Bam! Your son hits the ball, and it looks like it's a home run. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're going to hear the crack of that bat, and as soon as we hear that, the first thing we're going to do is like, oh, let me see if I got the shot of that crack of the bat. Meanwhile, your son's running down first base, and the first base coach gives him a high five because he just hit a home run. So that's Kodak moment. All of a sudden, your son turns, rounds first base, heading second, and it just really hits him. Doggone it, I just hit the game-winning home run. So he jumps up in the air to celebrate that. Okay, because if you're looking down to see if you got the crack of the bat shot, you missed that action. Okay, now your son rounds second base, and he's just so happy he trips over and does a tumble. Okay, if you're not looking at the back of your camera, now you're gonna get that shot of him running and tripping and tumbling. It's another Kodak moment. Third base coach high fives him, comes to home plate, the team surrounds him. You got all of those plays, and now after all of that action has happened, now you go back and look to see if you got the crack of the back shot. But you've gotten all of that game emotion because you didn't look to see if you had the crack. Does that make sense to everybody, what I'm trying to say to you? Stay focused on the action, and then we'll see everything later. And a lot of times, one of the things when I first started doing sports photography, I used to stand next to Sports Illustrated photographers. And then on Tuesday, I think the magazine would come out and I would look and say, all right, let's see what Peter Reed Miller got from the game, you know. And then I would see like emotion shots and behind the scenes shots. And I'm like, wow, that was great. And see, at that time, I was paying for those 36 frames to be processed for film, Kodachrome and everything. And so I would be very selective on what I'm shooting. But now we shoot digital. And, you know, with the Moscow Ballet, when I was shooting with the D4, I shot, you know, 2,000 frames. When I shot with the Sony A9, I went to 5,000 frames. But because I'm not paying for that. So my point is shoot, 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 and then have a lot of stuff to come back to look at. And game emotion sometimes is a better photo than the actual action shot. A lot of times game emotion will help tell a story a lot better. Then you want your stadium shots like I did with the bird's nest and fans. Okay, so here's some game emotion photos. This is USA after they won the gold medal, 2008. And this shot to me is the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat in that photo on the left. Okay, this is actually was fencing, and then obviously emotion down at the bottom right there. And then here's emotion being used to lift the weights. Okay, she just won her round, and she's running the lap with her country flag. This gentleman just made a tremendous move, and he's right in front of me. He says, "Hey Ron, get ready. I'm gonna do a nice reaction for you." Nope, I'm just sitting here. All of a sudden, he's right there. Bang, 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 bang with the 70 to 200. Okay, you're just ready, and this stuff comes at you. But again, it's emotion. And this is one of my favorite emotion shots because this was doing a wrestling match, and this referee, that's actually the referee. That's not her dad or her cousin or whatever. That's the referee. He just said, "Pin." She jumps up and jumps on the referee. Now you can look at his expression. He's happy for her, but he knows that's kind of inappropriate because he's the referee, and now she's celebrating with him, but it's still a cool photo and one of my favorite emotion shots. I'm hoping someday to do a book on emotion and photography. And there she is. You know, to me, that says I worked hard for all my life, and here I am. I've met my goal. I got my gold medal. And there's the fencing, you know, and I'll show you more about that in a second. So my favorite sport, I have to say, is football. So this was shot at a NFL game. This is with the 70 to 200 in the end zone. You know, they were probably on the 5-yard line or something like that, and I got a series of this shot. Some more football action. And again, for football, I really don't like to use a monopod because I like to, when the quarterback throws the ball, if you're familiar with NFL films, they're some of the best cameramen. I also do camera work. I used to freelance for MSNBC as a cameraman, and then I worked for Comcast Sports, and then I've done camera work for various ministries, Christian ministries, as a cameraman. And so you know, I'm used to having a camera on my shoulder, and I do my best with trying not to use a monopod, and I try to follow that ball from the time the quarterback lets it go, that you know, and I just find it easier for me to do it without a monopod. Now, you know, I know that's not technically it's not correct, but you know, that's how I like to work. So this is a play of Rutgers, and the gentleman in the white was the receiver, and the gentleman in the red is the defender. And you can see in the photo on the left, the defender sticks his hand in, and he's gonna hit the ball. And if you look at the shot next to in the top right corner, you see the ball's coming loose. And now the ball is coming loose and is heading into another defensive player, and the defensive player catches the ball. And that was just a quick series. There is one play, if you go on my website, Ron Wyatt Photos, and go to Project Wyatt, I have one play that I shot 100 frames on in football. And I posted, I think, 68 out of the 100 frames. And it's pretty cool to see the action. you know, the quarterback, the guy runs the ball and then he fumbles, then there's a recovery. And I think I showed like 60 something of the frames. But here's more football action. Okay. Beijing Summer Olympic Games. So we're going to go into the Olympic photography. Any questions? All righty. So here's the bird's nest. You know, like I said, I'm there 30 days, and the last night before leaving, I saw this shot, and my bags were packed, and I pulled out 24 to 70 on the D3, and I shot maybe 10 frames, a quarter of a second, and put the camera back in and came home. And this is a photo that has opened a tremendous amount of doors, like I said before. So here's Beijing 2008 in my background. Now I started on the lower level of this arena, and then I love the colors, and I love the 2008, and so I just said, well, I need to figure out a way to get this to 2008 and feature the colors. So I just kept, like, from ground level, it was too much looking up. So I just kept going up the stairs, up the stairs. This is in the stadium where the people would sit. And then I went up, and then the next key to make it a successful photo is the divers need to be somewhat in sync. You know, if one diver is here and one diver is there, then, you know, that's not the shot. So this is a capture here. This was the day before opening ceremony. And now again, this is, you can see my Beijing 2008 and rings in the background. Okay, so, excuse me. So I went to the rehearsal the night before to see the opening ceremony. So I had an idea of what I wanted to do. So I found myself a seat where I could see being in the line of fire of the parade and everything. And for opening ceremony, we had to be in our seats at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the opening ceremony didn't start till 8:08 at night. So all that time we were just sitting there. And it's not like you go to your local football stadium and you can go grab a hot dog or a soda because of the water issues and you know, we had to eat only in certain places because of the difference that, you know, if you ate the wrong thing or drink the wrong water or something that could make you sick. So it was just really, we weren't happy campers waiting for this event to happen. And again, they made us be in our seats at 3 o'clock. If you weren't there, then you weren't getting in. And that's that. So this is opening ceremony. Now, just keep in mind, I'm 1 week into Nikon. So I went from my Canon gear to Nikon 1 week, and I'm getting ready to shoot opening ceremony with a camera system that's completely different than what I've ever used. Again, I had 30 years of experience working with Canon cameras. Now I'm shooting the Beijing Olympic Games with Nikon equipment that I only have for 1 week. So hopefully you see how crazy that was to do that. And you know, when Nikon offered to me, I said, you know what? I actually said to him, I don't think it's smart. I don't want it because I don't have enough time to learn your system. And the girl kept me on for 45 minutes on the phone. And finally, she asked me what I was going to take. And she says, I'm going to send it to you. And I told you, I went and shot my son's baseball game. I set up for back button focus and just did some minor things to learn the system. That I went out and shot. So these are some of the opening ceremony photos, 1 week into learning how to do Nikon gear. This is with 300-2.8. All of this is available light. Now, okay, so I'm 1 week in. My first assignment was opening ceremony. Kodak wants me to have image to them by 5 a.m. the next morning. So I get to my room and I'm seeing this stuff for the first time. And I'm like, okay, I got everything I could cross because I'm hoping everything is going to be okay, because it's open ceremony. I'm with the new camera system. So I'm in my room and I'm looking, ooh, then I'm going, ah, and I'm going, oh my God. Oh, yes, yes, yes. The last thing, you put a couple on my wall in my hotel room. The last thing you would have thought I was doing was looking at photos, okay? You get my drift? That's how excited I was when I was starting to look at this stuff for the first time, seeing my images from the brand new Nikon system that I'm shooting on with only 1 week experience. So this was shot with the 70-200. And what I liked about this photo, I didn't know who the person was at the time, but I just saw the height difference between him and the kid. And that's what made me want to shoot it. So with this photo, normally I would have just cropped the torch bearer. But if you look at his shadow, look at where the torch is in the shadow, and you can actually see the heat rays from the fire. So at that time, I was like, whoa, D3 Nikon, look at you. I was like, holy smokes, that is some serious stuff that you could, in the shadow, you can see the heat rays in the shadow detail. I thought that was pretty amazing. Again, 1 week with Nikon. So this is right in front of me with the 70-200 from my seat. Now he's bringing the Olympic torch. Okay, so he's getting ready to light the torch. And the torch is lit. So this is some shots from closing ceremony. I hope you enjoyed the Olympic photos. We're at closing ceremony now. And one of the cool things that happened, a friend of mine knew a writer from Rangefinder magazine, and he said, hey, one of my buddies is going to shoot the Olympics. So she said, oh, really? I'd like to do a story on that. So my friend calls and says, this lady, Alice Miller, is going to call you, and she wants to do a story about you doing the Olympics. And I'm like, oh man, I don't got time for that. I'm shooting the Olympics. I don't want to have to be keeping notes and all of that stuff to keep records for to do a story. It's hard enough for me to do the games. I don't got time for that. So, but he's my mentor. To this day, he's my mentor. And I said, okay, Andrew, whatever you say. So the lady calls me. Hi, Ron, it's Alice. Congratulations on shooting the Olympic Games. I hope you have a great time. I'll call you when you get back. Have a good time. Bye-bye. I'm like, that's it? That's it? So I went and shot the games. We came back, and she interviewed me on the phone for about an hour and a half. And then she says to me, okay, this is a short story, because Rangefinder is usually like a portrait and wedding type magazine, And she goes, well, they're just going to do like a page story on you with the Olympics. So she says to me, send me 6 photos to pick from. And so I shot 50,000 at the games. I had narrowed it down to 900, and I'm trying to pick which one of the 6 do I pick. And so what I did was I put them on a hard drive, and I FedExed the hard drive to her. I says, be my guest, you pick the 6. So then she says, oh, okay, I see what you mean. And so she went and called the magazine, and what the magazine did was they scratched the story they were going to do with the 1 page, and then they said, we're going to put it in the next month's issue. And then they gave me 8 pages in Rangefinder, and they ran 8 pages of my photos from it. I'm pretty sure there's a link on my website where you can see it, but that was pretty cool and an honor to have that. And for me, it was never a dream. I never dreamed to say, like right now, I'm dreaming about getting a shot of the gondola in Venice when I go there, and I'm dreaming about getting a shot of a salmon. I mean, a bear catching a salmon. Okay, those are shots that I want. That's an assignment I want to do. I never in my mind ever said, oh, I want to shoot the Olympics someday. I never said that. I never said I want to shoot NFL someday. And one day I was coming from MSNBC, and I get a phone call, and the guy says to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm on the turnpike riding back from MSNBC." He goes, "Pull over." He says, "Pull over. I got something to ask you." And then he says to me, "All right, I got a call from Kodak. They're looking for somebody that can photograph sports, but also handle their VIPs. How would you like to shoot the Olympic Games?" And I'm like, "Okay, where's the camera?" I'm in my car looking for the camera. I'm like, "Am I being punked?" And he goes, "No, they need you to send them some samples right away." And so that's basically how I got the job. I sent them some samples, and because of my experience with corporate and dealing with executives, they felt that, and they saw some of my sports photography. They felt comfortable in hiring me to shoot the Athens games. Now, come Athens, and at the end they said, "Hey, we were very happy with you." And they said, and it wasn't necessarily because of your photography, but we were happy really with you because of how you handle our VIPs from around the world. Every 3 or 4 days, they would have new VIPs that they were sponsored to spend a few days at the Olympics coming from around the world. And I would go and shoot them. And so they said, we definitely want to have you back again. And so now the winter games are coming up, and I'm waiting for the call to come do the winter games, and they didn't call. So finally I said, "Hey, what's going on?" Excuse me. And they said, "Well, because you don't ski, we're not going to hire you for the for the winter games." And I'm like, "What's skiing got to do with it?" And so I was bummed out. So now 2008 Beijing games come up, and I'm like, "Okay, are they going to hire me again? They're going to hire me again. I want to shoot another games." And then Getty Images was the official photographers of the Olympics. And so only if like Visa is the only credit card you could use, McDonald's is the only hamburger you could buy, Coke is the only drink you could buy, et cetera, et cetera. And Getty Images is Visa has to use Getty, Coke has to use Getty, everybody has to use Getty. And so they told Kodak, "No, you got to use one of our photographers." Kodak was head of the media center, and Kodak said, "No, we want our own photographer. We're having our own photographer." And so one day my wife and I were sitting at a restaurant at a hibachi joint, and I'm sitting there playing with the chopsticks. Now I don't have a clue how to work the chopsticks, but I'm trying to figure out how to work the chopsticks. All right. And then all of a sudden I had an idea in my head. I said, "You know what I'm gonna do?" So I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna I'm gonna take these chopsticks. I'm gonna send an email to my contact at Kodak, and I'm gonna tell them my bags are packed, my chopsticks are ready. All I need is the assignment. I'm waiting to hear from you for the Beijing Olympic Games. And I sent that email off. And about a week later, I get a phone call. "Hello, Mr. Ron. This is so and so. So and so would like to talk to you. Do you have a minute to talk to him?" And then that's how I got the invitation for the Beijing games. And the next thing you know, I was the only photographer. The 2004 Kodak had 3 photographers. For 2008, I was the only photographer. And part of the reason was because of how I handled the Beijing. And so I hope you enjoyed the story of how I tried to find that type of work. And that's how my career has been for a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to move on. Did somebody like that story? Good, thank you. So here's another shot of the bird's nest. The bird's nest was the #1 photo opportunity. That was the highlight. And one of the stories, if you saw the Beijing Olympics and you saw opening ceremony, it was probably it was the best opening ceremony ever in the history of the Olympics. And the guy who wrote the show for the Olympics, he wrote the show for the ceremony, and then he handed the show ceremony to the architect and told the architect, "Okay, here's my show. Build me a stadium for this show." And that's how it worked. And to this day, I still have the whole press release about that thing. But the bird's nest was the highlight of the tournament. And so I got a variety of different shots. And there's your torch. And here's a shot that I probably should have, took my color balance and hit on the torch there. But this is sort of like a sepia tone. And so I left it like it is because I felt like it was more like a sepia tone. That's where the swimming was. And actually, that's a little distorted. I should have had a lens correction lens for that. Now, I missed the world record because I wasn't there. I didn't really want to shoot track and field because I could do that anytime. I wanted to shoot some of the other events that I don't have opportunity to shoot. But it was a world record set. So I just happened to be walking and I see this guy reading the newspaper. So I just went over his shoulder and focus in. And at least I have some kind of documentation of the world record part of it. And then here's another opposite side over the shoulder shot. So we're into action now. And here's, this is with the 200 to 400 f4. Okay. Now, again, my goal was to have the Beijing 2008 and the rings in the shot. And then it helps when the divers are in sync going in. That helps make the photo. And here they, they're underwater and you're not sure where they're going to pop out, but I just happen to be at the right place at the right time. They pop out of the water and bang, there's my Beijing 2008 in the background again. Okay, same thing again. And now I'm also including the rings in the shot. This is from the underwater portal shooting through. And I mean, look at the quality. That the D3 was smoking camera back in those days. That's with the 24-7 shooting through a little portal. Later on, I'll show you the picture. Now here's fencing. This is action. It's pretty good. Here's more action. That's about what you're gonna get when you're shooting fencing. But then there's the reaction. So I would think that most of you agree that the third, that's the best shot out of those three photos there. All right, when it comes to capturing the point, and if you're sending it in for a newspaper article. This is weightlifting, and then the backgrounds were just really, really bad for this, and I didn't feel like trying to find a spot in the stadium to clean it up, so I just said, you know what, it's too much junk in the background. I'm just gonna get out. I'm gonna catch the next bus out of here. So here's before I thought she was a pretty good looking weightlifter, so I captured a quick tight shot. And still, you can see the distractions that are down at the bottom of the frame there. This is archery. This particular gentleman fired. I shot 1,000 frames on this particular event, and this is the only frame out of 1,000 where I had the arrow coming off the bow. Okay, and this guy actually, he's from Australia, and he won the gold medal. And it was funny because there's like 50 photographers shooting this event. And they don't say, okay, photographers, get ready. On 3, we're gonna do this shot. All right, everybody ready? No, you're just sitting there. And he's like, and you're like, come on, dude, give us something. And then all of a sudden, we're thinking we know when he's gonna release the bow. So you hear a roar. That's 50 photographers all firing their cameras off because we're thinking it's time to get the shot. And it goes like this. So what happens is all 50 of us, if he didn't fire, our buffers got full and then the camera starts slowing down, right? So for this particular shot, this is one, I did 1,000 frames, and this out of 1,000 frames, this is the only shot where the arrow's coming off. Now, to some, that may not be a big deal, but for me, it was a big deal because it does show somewhat of the action. And he actually won the gold medal for this round. So this is boxing. The stadium was a little dark, so I had to bump up the ISO here. And this is with the 200 to 400. And then I had to work on this in Photoshop a little bit to get clean. And then a few weeks ago, I did a talk like I'm doing here, and somebody made a complaint that they thought that I should have got rid of the noise in the photo because they thought it was too noisy. You'll see now that they thought was too noisy. And to me, it's like, you're gonna find if you're going into a high school gym and they say no flash allowed, then you're gonna have to shoot. It may be 3,200. Or I had an assignment for Hershey Park to photograph a new ride. It was an indoor ride. I needed to show the ride in motion, so I needed like at least a 500th of a second to stop the action. And they said you can't use flash because if you fire off flash, it's gonna set off some of the mechanics or the electronics of this particular ride. And so I had to bump my IS up all the way up on the A9 to 4,500. And yeah, you know, it's a little noisy, but the point was to get the shot. And these are some of the situations you're going to face. It may be too dark in that high school gym, so you may have to bump it up. And if it's your grandkid, you're not going to care how noisy it is. If you got the shot of your grandkid punching this dude in the face, then you're not even thinking. You're thinking about, oh, look at that cool shot, and look what grandpa or Grammy did to get this. All right. So beach volleyball outside. So that to me is an emotion shot. You know, she fell on the ground trying to recover the ball, and she's asking her partner, what just happened there? Why didn't you get this or whatever? But to me, it says emotion. If I ever get to do the book on emotion, I will put that shot in there. This is a shot that Kodak went to Getty Images and asked for this photo to be image of the day because they were happy with it. It looks like I'm lining up the balls and everything. That looks like it was Photoshop, but that's game action, right place at the right time. And notice what the ball says, Beijing 2008. And so Kodak went to Getty and Getty said, nope, got to be a Getty photographer. You're not going to get. So for 2004, I had one picture of the day, and I had opening ceremony picture of the day for 2004, which was pretty cool for my first Olympic Games, you know. And what that meant was the different Kodak has display monitors in different parts of the world. Times Square has one, et cetera, and then they would put photos from the games on those different places. Okay, so we're gonna move along. Any questions?
Yes, I have one again. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
I was just curious, do you sell any of these photos to the athletic, the people the athletes, or is it all just for where you're contracted at?
No, I don't sell anything. I don't have time for that. At one point, I used to do work for Zuma, and they were like a stock agency. And the guy that called me to offer me the job was head of a stock agency. And there used to be a time where, you know, when I was doing NFL, I would sell my photos to all of those publications we talked about before. But then Getty came and they started selling photos for $29. And then Getty would spend all the money they had and they would make themselves the official photographers of the Olympics. And so, you know, I mean, Visa can't use a photo from me. And they couldn't hire me to do photography either. They had to go through Getty. And you know, one time I had photos at Zuma Press, and they sold a photo to Entertainment Tonight or whatever, that entertainment magazine that you see in the newsstand. And I got a check for $11 for a photo that ran in Entertainment Tonight magazine. It cost me more to drive to the post office to mail those transparents. So this, you know, and part of my dream for long when I first started, I said, well, when I retire, I'm going to buy an RV and I'm going to stay in Dallas for a month and photograph Dallas for a month. And then I'm going to sell that stock photography. Then I'm going to go to Connecticut for a month, all over. And then Getty came and, you know, they'll sell the photo for $29 or whatever. Then another thing Getty does is like iHeartRadio. They have a music festival. I shot the first music festival, and then Getty Images said, we'll do this for you, and lost that. Then Getty was head of the Golf Association, whatever you call the golf. So that's what Getty does. They buy up all the rights, and it's hard to make a living doing this, which is how I don't see how, you know, Canon can come out with a $12,000 lens and you're going to figure out how to make that $12,000 back. Yeah, you could do that in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. But now 2013, geez, I'm getting tired now. 2022, you know, to make 12 grand, I mean, just to make the money back for 12 grand, that's some really hard work, you know, especially as a sports photographer, you know. So that's that.
Thank you.
So again, beach volleyball and my Beijing in the background. Now this, she's bouncing the ball and there's my Beijing. So, you know, I'm shooting all the time. Like I said, for the Beijing games, I shot 50,000 photos. This is when USA won and it's raining. It poured down raining. Now this is after they won. They started throwing souvenir balls out with the you know, for the fans, and this is one you can see the Beijing 2008 plus has got some signage on it also. Bicycle and cycling. So I didn't really do too much track and field, like I said, because of I can shoot this all the time. Now now here's a series where, you know, like say if you're traveling with me, if you go to one of the trips with me, and we're walking around, it's only 8 people, so we could stay in a group or whatever. And I hear you going, click. I'm gonna say, hey, Elaine, how come you're not going? All right. And one of the advantages of shooting a sequence is the frame before, this lady's eye was right on the cross of the string. And so if I only took one frame and got home and looked at that, I was like, oh shucks, her eye is blocked. But because I did a series of shots, now I can pick from to get the shot. You know, and there's a prime example of why you want to continuously shoot, and don't worry about how much digital you're using. I always joke that I get paid by the digital. That's why I take so many pictures, you know. So here's more game action. We're playing tennis now. There's my Beijing 2008 in the background. Background again. Okay, so we're indoors again, and this was I believe with the 70 to 200. And now this particular shot, you see the right hand, that's the referee giving the point. And then if you look at the helmet, right above the helmet, you can see the condensation, the sweat that popped off of him from the impact. All right. And you know, which is pretty cool to me. I like being able to see that, because you could tell that there was there was an impact, and it made the sweat off his helmet jump off. So here's another reaction shot. Reaction. So it's a pretty good shot. So you pick which one you like better, the actual bang or the reaction from it. Now for this one, I got my Beijing 2008 in the background, but what I like is the referee, because you can see how he's really digging in there and checking out all the action, making sure he captures it. This is soccer, and USA won the gold medal. Right before this particular match, USA softball was playing, and they were going for the gold medal. So I went to that event to photograph that first. And by the time I got to the soccer, it was like 20 seconds left in regulation. And I always joke, they said, wait a minute, we can't win this yet. Ron's not here. Ron Wyatt's not here yet. Let's keep going. Let's go into overtime. And so if you know about soccer, it's a big field, okay? And you know, if you can see down the other end of the Beijing, now what if that action was down there? Then where I'm sitting right now, it would be in a bad spot. And you don't know where the action is going to be, because it's, you know, the field is rectangle, and it could be in that corner, this corner, that corner, in the middle, etc. And so I got there in regular, it's like 20, 30 seconds left in regulation. And so I get in there, I pull out my cameras, and I set up down on my end. I said, let me try this in. And then sure enough, the action came at me. And here's some photos that I got to get before. Within 2 minutes they won in overtime the gold medal, USA. So here's action, some more action, more action, right? And notice, if you can see that white line, all of this could have been down that other end, and then I would have been in trouble because I'm too far away. But this is all right in front of me. Okay, right in front of me again. Now see the referee down the other end, look in the green back there, look how far away he is. All right, and then, now here's the goalie coming out to save the ball. And actually USA went on to win the gold medal, and I did a series of celebration shots and all that kind of stuff. So there's that photo again with the sink for diving. So here's another, this one I got two Beijing 2008 and on the side ring. And this is the only photo out of 50,000 photos I shot at the games where the one world, one dream is in. See that off to the right of the screen? That's the only photo that I got that in. So normally I would have cropped this because I don't need, I could have just cropped right off his shoulder, but it would have, you know, cut out the one world, one dream. So that's why I left that in there, just to be able to have that. Probably doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but to me, you know, like I said, my goal was to have the logo in as much as possible. Now here, I just went in tighter. I cropped out the 2000 just to give me something different. And I got the just the Beijing and two synchronized swimmers. So here, these guys are going off, and this is how Kodak used my photos. Like I said, I think I said, every morning by 5 a.m. I had to have photos on the desk so they could use for their different places. And this is the hospitality suite for Kodak. And every morning and lunch and dinner, people would come in here and have their breakfast and make their plans for the day, find out what's going on. And they would just have a screen where they would just keep running all the photos I took from the day before. Cheerleaders. Boy, I am really getting tired now, and I am going to sleep like a baby tonight. This is a long day. Gymnastics with the 200 to 400 again. If ever you're shooting gymnastics, you always got to get that shot where they're doing the powder and poof. Just look for it. You got to come back home with that if you get the chance to shoot. There's the poof shot. So this was kind of like a bad shot because I was waiting for the next event to start. So I was way across court or gym, but I saw this guy and I said, let me shoot him. And but you see all the wires and all that stuff over there. Just really a bad background. But again, I said, well, let me get him. But I wanted to be in the spot for the next round, and so I shot this across the gym. Now here it is, he just won and he's celebrating and he's got his arms up, USA, and the Beijing 2008 just happened to be right behind him for me. Now this back in the 70s and 80s could be a stock shot, okay, that you could sell, and depending on how they use it, you could make a lot of money before Getty Images came along and sells it for $29, $49. So this is USA. China just had a bad round, and USA has a chance to take the gold medal. And she's the first athlete to jump up, and she falls off the beam. And I'm like, oh my God, no, you didn't. And I'm like, no, you're a photographer. You're not supposed to be a fan and rooting and everything, but you're for your home team, you know. And she just had a bad day that day, and then here she is all upset because of her bad day. And this is Sean Johnson, I believe. Now I'm drawing a blank, but anyway, and this is one of my favorite photos because I said, Sean, you got to get the legs up and get the head back for me. And you know, you see the photographers on the other side, they shot this shot from that angle, and they're not seeing her face because her face is down behind. But I just happen to be on the other side of the thing, and she does the jump, And again, prayer works. Saying my prayers and being at the right place at the right time, and there's the photo. Now here's the portal. You can see there's two guys in front of me, and I was waiting for my turn, but it's pretty cool to see this from underwater, especially when I forgot what the name of it is, but when they're trying to get the ball and trying to throw the ball into the net. The stuff they do, like they're pulling their legs and they're doing all stuff underwater that's cheating, but it's pretty fascinating to watch. This was a display Kodak had. Kodak was head of the media center, and this is two photos that they had on the wall of whatever they called it. And these were two photos that I shot from 2004 that they had hanging up. And there I am with my badge and my credentials, and you can see the little pins. I got a collection of pins and everything. I would love for one more opportunity to shoot one more game. This is Michael Phelps before he shaved off his goatee and his mustache. He's warming up, and then he shaves it off, and he went on to win 8 medals. Any questions? Here, at the right time, at the right place, the goalie, the only thing left he could use to stop the ball from going in the net is his foot.
So
Now, this
Ron,
was yes.
so I shoot quite a bit of track and field, and I have never seen. This was at the beginning of your
I'm on
presentation.
the thing, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've never seen a discus shot like you captured at the beginning of the presentation, and you explained how you got that shot. You put yourself in harm's way, and you had to ask permission to do that. Do you
Right.
do that very often in sport with your sports photography? Basically, get permission to go out there and at your own risk do what you did.
Yeah, well, it all depends on what's going on. I mean, in the Olympics, they give you a vest, and your vest has a number on it. And if you do something crazy, who's 222? Oh, that's Ron Wyatt. Get him out of here, and you're done. So, but then shooting the Olympics is brutal with the photographers. I mean, especially the foreign photographers. Them guys don't play around. Like I think I'm going to show you a shot in a minute where they'll push you out the way and everything to get a shot. And but it all depends on where. Like for that shot, I say I'm from the Star Ledger, and the judge says, "Oh, he's pressed," and you got a credential, and then they don't bother you. They'll warn you that, well, be careful, and you give them the confidence that you know what the heck you're doing, and then they'll let you do it. Now, my kids know to put on my tombstone, "You have not because you ask not." All right. And so sometimes I'll ask, to do something, or if I really want it bad enough, it's always okay to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I got 30 frames off." Like sometimes I'll see people, and I'll see them from a distance, and like I'll shoot them with the 70 to 200, and I'll bang off 30 frames, and then they'll say, "No, no, no, no. No problem. I already got 30 frames." Now, I'm not going to try to sell those 30 frames, but I will show them in my presentations and things like that. So it all depends, and again, that's one of the good reasons why you want to study photos. If I got hired to shoot the pickle championships, and they call and said, "Ron, the pickle championships is coming up next weekend. Can you shoot that?" Heck yeah. Oh, wow. I haven't done that in a long time. Don't have a clue what to do. But now I'm going to go Google pickle shoot championships, and I'm going to look at every pickle shoot picture And then I'm going to get an idea of what I would like to do, and then figure out what I need to do to get to do that. And then I'm going to do it, you know? So it all depends on the venue. Sometimes I mean, if you go to a baseball game, they're going to put you in the first base box or the third base box. Or if you want to sit around in seats, then you can take your chance. But some stadiums like Yankee Stadium, they're going to bust your chops, especially if you got a long lens. But then again, if you got a credential, they may cut you some slack. So it changes from different, different situations. But I always try to find the best spot I can. And then, and I just try to be easy and don't make any waves, and hopefully nobody's going to stop me. Yeah, table tennis is hard because to get the rings in, this stuff, they hit the ball so fast, it's crazy. But there's my rings on the floor there. Okay, so this is USA and Brazil indoor volleyball, and USA is going to lose. And then look at these photographers in a second. Now, see, this used to be a really good stock shot back in the day. But I mean, you could Photoshop the Beijing out and just got a ball that's getting ready to be served. Everybody knows what it is. And say if Visa is going to run a shot like this because they're sponsoring indoor volleyball, so they can't tell whose hand that is, but it's a volleyball. It looks like it's getting ready to be served. That's a good shot for them to use what they're advertising. And because you can't tell who it is, they like that because now they don't got to pay that person a fee for in their ad. Follow me? So anyway, so here Brazil wins, and look at all the photographers. Everybody's trying to get that shot. So I just stayed on my side and shot it from over, not in there. So here's here's one of these situations where I'm using back button focus. And I have no clue how this lady's face, I can't see it because my columns are blocking it right now, but I'm following her down and somehow I get off her but it's still in focus. It's the center dot, then some have 2 or 3 dots to the right, 2 or 3 dots to the left. Once it's off the center, and then those other dots pick it up. And had I known I could do drugs and invent back button focus or eye focus or the cell phone or whatever, I would have done drugs when I was a kid. Anyway, I hope you guys get my point. There's some great stuff out there to work with. See, now here is this, what I like about this shot is, I got the water bouncing around but it's framing so you can see her eye. So for this, for wrestling, I started on the floor, but it was just way too busy. And so I wanted to get up and shoot down on it so I could clean up and use a colorful background. And so now I'm up a little higher, but this one is higher up, just slightly higher, just so that I'm not eye level, just having to shoot down somewhat. And here's action there. Here's the softball that USA lost. The action in the outfield. She made the catch, so her teammates giving her a pat to say congratulations. Nice catch. Here's a play at second base. And here's the catch in the outfield. So all of these are usually shot at like 2000 shutter speed, anywhere from 400 to 2000 ISO. And then I just shoot shutter priority and whatever aperture it picks, So just about gonna wrap this up. So here's basketball. And maybe about 2 or 3 years, I just happened to look through my files again, and I found this shot. And what I like about this shot is, remember I told you I won Beijing 2008, their Olympic rings or whatever, and Mr. Bryan is saying, "Hey Ron, here's your 2008 for me. And his hand is pointing up to it. And it looks like, you know, I paid a couple of grand to get that particular photo, or I photoshopped it in. So I was real happy with that shot. So here's some action. This is with the 24-70 under the basket. Now, this is the final shots. This is Kobe. He's going to make a steal. And if you look where the referee is, if you look to the right of the referee, that's a photographer there. And you see the little blue thing there? That's the wall they put up to keep us off the floor. So he's down at that end of the court. And if you can see where he is, look to the left and you can see the Beijing rings on the background there. Everybody see the rings that are over there? So that's the net down that end. And so when the ball's down that end, I'm using my 200 to 400 to shoot down that end. Okay. So look where the photographer is and how close he is. And so he could probably shoot that action down his end of the court with a 24-70 or so. So now I got my setup down the other end. So I got the 200 to 400 here for the shoot down court. Like this shot here is with the 200 to 400. Kobe about to steal the ball. And then when they get up to my end of the court, I'm going to put my 200 to 400 down and pick up my 24-70 and then shoot the action that's under my basket. But for this particular play, Kobe steals the ball and the play happened so fast that I didn't have time to switch cameras. And so I'm up against the wall and I can't move. I can't really turn my whole body. And so what I did with the camera, I can show you what I did. So I'm shooting down the other end of the court, and then all of a sudden, Kobe steals the ball. So I'm locked in on it. I'm following him down the court. All of a sudden, he starts going up, and so now it's hard for me to turn my neck to look in the viewfinder. And but I know he's going up to take the shot, and so I'm as with my photography, my video skills, I know that you need to start tilting up to keep everything in the frame. And so I'm following the ball and I'm not even looking now, and I'm just going up. Now, at that time, I wasn't using the back glass. I always use the viewfinder, and I still don't use the back glass. So here's the shot. And then, so Kobe steals the ball. Fast break. Because he came down on the fast break, I didn't have time to get rid of my 200 to 400. So he's coming down my end. Now his defensive player catches up to him. All right, Kobe's still coming. He's going off to the right, heading toward the basket. Fast break. Now he's going up, and I'm in a position now where I can't really turn to keep him framed. I can't stay in, so I just got to pan with him. And so Kobe's going up. So now I'm starting to lose. I'm not seeing the net yet. So now I lost the ball. I'm seeing the net, but I'm still tilting up. So notice the difference now. I'm still tilting up. See the little space I have of the net, but now I'm still panning and tilting up. So I'm tilting up. All of a sudden, I'm tilting up. Now we can see the rim. I'm catching up with the ball now, and bam. And bam too. And that's the end of the presentation. Thank you very, very much. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Juicy scores.
Very good. I'm tired. It's 11. Oh, wow. 11 o'clock, right on the nose. So thank you very much. Any other questions?
No,
And
thank
one
you
of the
very
things
much.
I'm sorry.
Like I said, thank you very much. It was very
Oh,
nice.
thank you. Thank you.
Good
One of the
presentation.
things I regret, I kept saying I was going to send this photo to Kobe. I never got a chance to do it. And now I'm saying I'll try to send it to his family. And I need to just, I have posters of these made of this particular shot because I thought it was a pretty cool story, and it happened just that way. And again, I couldn't believe it. Like you're hoping that you got it, and then you look and see it, and it's like, yes, so I'm gonna send it to his family because I think it's a pretty good and I'm sorry that I didn't get it to him while he was alive, you know.
Ron, you mentioned that in one instance that you primarily shoot shutter priority. Is that correct?
Yes, I always shoot shutter priority. You know, even when I want depth of field, then I'll just go down to a quarter of a second. And if that gives me the F8 or F11 I need, then I'll just fire off a whole bunch of frames and get it. Or, you know, but I don't shoot aperture or manual. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to you know, yeah, like the 2 weeks ago I had an assignment in Central Park, and a lot of times I'll use my plus and minus to help me with exposures, you know. But 99% of the time I'm shooting in aperture. I'm a shutter priority. And
And what's your shutter speed that you typically work with?
it all depends on what I'm doing. Like when I shot the, you know, lately, like I noticed when I was shooting like 125th, 250, 500, I was still seeing some images that just looked a little motion in it. And so I'm very conscious of trying to shoot faster shutter speeds now. Now, I just went out 2 weeks, last weekend. I went out, Sigma sent me some lenses to try out because I'm doing a safari, and I'm trying to get them to sponsor me with like a lens or two that can be used with somebody that comes as a Canon shooter, and maybe a lens or two that somebody that maybe go to Tanzania with me for a Nikon shooter, and just so we can help them out. And usually once you try it out, like I tried out the A9 for my ballet stuff, and I had to go purchase it. And it's like, you know, once I found out that Sony came up with a new 70 to 200 2.8 is supposed to be better than the old 70 to 200 2.8 Sony, and then I went out and purchased it. And like right now, last week they announced a 24 to 70 Sony, and so it's on the bucket list. I think when you guys send me your check for speaking tonight, I'll probably go purchase it. Sorry, I am extremely tired right now. I got up at 5:45. My alarm in my house went off, and then I had to pick up my girlfriend at 8 o'clock, and we've been running all day for the funeral and everything, you know. So it's been, and then yesterday, you know, everybody's coming in from out of town, so we're at somebody's house having dinner, and you know, and it's just been brutal. So I'm going to go upstairs and really have some serious sleep in a little while. And that it's not going to be at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning tonight, you know. So any other questions out there? I see your lips moving, but I don't hear anything. Oh, no, I guess he's talking to somebody in there. What's the call?
There we go.
Okay, good.
Now you can hear me. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thank you. We're going to wrap it up here. It's getting late for us, and it's even later for you, and we sure appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yes,
All
thank
right,
you
well,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you
If,
very much.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to help out if I can. All right.
All right. Take care,
Have a good
folks.
night.
Thanks for
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.